Title. She danced like I was already gone. The second her hand touched his chest, she looked straight through me. Not over me. Not past me. Through me. Her fingertips curled into the fabric of his blazer like it was familiar, like this wasn't the first time they'd been that close. She was smiling. Not nervously. Not politely. That smile had history. They moved together like they'd practiced. Slow, swaying, her head just barely tilted, a silent permission for his hands to settle lower than they should have. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to, because everything around us was already louder than I could be. The band, the chatter, the clink of drinks, the sound of her laughing at whatever he whispered. It echoed. I could have walked over. I could have tapped her on the shoulder. Instead, I did something worse. I watched. I watched her mouth form that soft little, oh stop, shape she used to give me back when we were still honest. I watched her step in closer when the music shifted. And I watched her not flinch when he pulled her waist tighter. You don't forget that kind of moment. You don't just go home and sleep it off. So I set my drink down, still full. And I walked out. No storming. No scene. Just a quiet exit, like a man slipping out of his own life while no one's looking. The air outside hit colder than I expected. Streetlights flickered above me like they hadn't been paid on time. I didn't check my phone. I didn't even have my coat. I didn't care. I just started walking. No plan. No destination. Only one thought. If she notices I'm gone, it'll already be too late. But what I didn't know, not then, is that she would notice. Faster than I thought. And when she did, she unraveled. She didn't expect me to vanish until the music stopped. I wasn't even a full block away before the cold started biting at my hands. I shoved them into my pockets, but the sting felt deserved. It was almost comforting, in a stupid way, like something finally matched what I felt inside. Raw, silent, unseen. The street was quiet, except for the occasional whoosh of a car passing by, indifferent to my exit from the life I thought I was building. I walked past a restaurant window where couples laughed over desserts, wine glasses catching the candlelight. I wondered how many of them were pretending like we were, smiling for strangers, dying inside. Somewhere behind me, the rooftop lights were still glowing. The music probably hadn't even changed. For all I knew, she was still dancing, still laughing, still pretending I wasn't real. And then, like on cue, my phone buzzed. Where did you go? Her text popped up like a question she didn't actually want answered. No apology. No panic. Just 4 words. Neutral. Safe. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. She didn't deserve a reply yet. Maybe not ever. I ducked into a corner cafe, the kind that stays open late but never fills up. A single barista gave me a look, half curious, half bored. I nodded toward the back booth, ordered nothing, just sat with the weight of it all pressing into my ribs. 15 minutes passed. Then another buzz. This time she tried calling. I let it ring. Maybe it was petty. Maybe it was childish. But damn it, for the first time in years, she was looking for me, and I didn't want to be found. That's when something strange happened. The door swung open. Hard. Like someone didn't care how loud it slammed. And there she was. Hair slightly windblown. Eyes darting. Her heels clicking on the tile like gunshots. She looked frantic, but not in a crying, mascara-running kind of way. No, this was worse. This was a woman who just realized she lost control of something she thought was nailed down. Her gaze scanned the room, locked on me instantly. She didn't smile. Didn't rush over. She just stood there, staring like she was seeing me for the first time in months. Maybe years. I didn't say anything. I just leaned back in the booth, stared right back. She walked toward me, slow at first. Then she hesitated, one step before the table. Her lips parted like she had a speech planned, but the words didn't show up. And that's when I saw it. Guilt. Not panic. Not concern. Just a heavy, settling guilt hanging behind her eyes like smoke in a burned-out room. She opened her mouth again. But all I said was, "How long?" And the silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. She thought silence would save her. It broke everything instead. She didn't answer. Not right away. She blinked. Once, twice. Then tilted her head like she hadn't heard me. But she had. The question hung between us like fog, seeping into everything. How long? It wasn't even a full sentence, but it carried more weight than anything I'd ever asked her. Her hands clutched the strap of her purse so tight. Her knuckles turned pale. She finally slid into the booth across from me without asking. I could smell her perfume. It was floral, expensive, unfamiliar. Not what she used to wear when she was trying to impress me. New scent for a new audience, I guess. Clarence, she started, and immediately I hated how she said my name. Like she was trying to soften it, smooth it over, shape it into something safe. But there was no safety here. Not anymore. I didn't respond. I let her sit in the tension. She always hated silence, needed to fill it, patch it, repaint it. And true to form, she broke within seconds. It's not what you think, she said. Classic line. Might as well have printed it on a cue card. I raised an eyebrow, but stayed quiet. She looked down, fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on the tabletop. I was just trying to make him feel included. He's new. It was a harmless dance. She looked up quickly, eyes scanning my face for softness, forgiveness, something. But I didn't give her any. I just watched. You smiled like you meant it, I said finally. My voice sounded foreign in my own ears, low, distant, exhausted. She flinched, barely, and looked away again. It was just a dance, she repeated. Louder this time, as if volume could erase intention. I shook my head. Then why did you follow me? I asked. Why not keep dancing? That shut her up. Her mouth closed, and something in her expression cracked. Like she'd just realized this wasn't going to be another one of those fights she could out-talk. I leaned forward. You know the worst part? I asked. It wasn't him. It wasn't the dancing. It wasn't even the way you touched him. It was how easy it was for you to forget I was in the room. She looked like she might cry then. I almost hoped she would. But instead, she did something worse. She reached across the table, slow, tentative, and put her hand on mine. I didn't forget, she whispered. I didn't think you'd leave. And that right there? That was it. That was the sentence that told me everything I needed to know about our marriage. She didn't think I'd leave. She counted on me staying. Always staying. No matter how far she drifted. No matter how many quiet betrayals she wrapped in polite excuses. She thought I'd still be standing there holding her clutch like an idiot. Because I always had. I pulled my hand away. You miscalculated, I said. And this time, her face really did break. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just a slow collapse, shoulders sinking, eyes losing their shine, mouth falling open like she finally understood the cost. But I was already standing up, coatless, tired, finished. You're coming home? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I paused, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wanted her to feel the silence one more time. Really feel it. Then I left her there. And this time, she didn't follow. She let me walk away. Then she did something I never thought she would. I didn't go home that night. I took the late train out of the city, no destination in mind, just movement. My phone buzzed 10 times before I finally turned it off. Her name flashing again and again. No doubt the messages ranged from casual to panicked. I didn't read a single one. I didn't want to give her the relief of knowing I still cared enough to check. Because the truth was, I did care. Too much. That's why it hurt the way it did. That's why I was on a train to nowhere with nothing but the sound of strangers murmuring around me and the sick feeling in my chest that something had just snapped for good. The next morning, I came back early. Not home. Not yet. I stopped 3 blocks away and sat in a diner with windows that looked out toward our apartment building. I had no plan. I just wanted to see. To watch. To figure out if she even slept. Around 7:10, I saw her step out. Hair still curled from the night before, but her face was tired, no makeup, eyes red-rimmed. She looked both younger and older somehow, like someone coming down from a performance they'd played too long. She stood outside the building for a minute, just staring at the street, then pulled out her phone and called someone. I thought it might be me, until I watched her speak with her head tilted, her expression shifting from sad to annoyed to something sharp and hushed. Then she got into a rideshare and left. I waited until afternoon before I finally went back. The apartment felt weirdly still, like she'd erased herself from it on purpose. The coffee mug she usually left in the sink was gone. The shoes by the door had been lined up too neatly. She'd been trying to pretend nothing happened. That much was obvious. On the kitchen counter, she left a single note. Just 2 words. Let's talk. Nothing else. No apology. No explanation. I laughed bitterly and tossed it into the trash. That night, she didn't come home. Not by midnight. Not by 3 a.m. Not by sunrise. And that's when the unease crept in. Not because I missed her, but because I started wondering where she actually was. Not wondering like a worried husband. I wasn't that anymore. Wondering like a man whose trust had already cracked and was now bending into something worse. The next morning, my phone lit up. A message. From her. It wasn't long. I made a mistake. I needed to clear my head. I'm staying with someone. I'll explain later. No name. No address. No we. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart didn't race. My stomach didn't drop. It was worse than that. It was a cold, settling realization that I had just been replaced. Or maybe not even replaced, just discarded for a while, like luggage you don't feel like carrying. She left me. After everything. She left me. But not cleanly. Not fully. Because 2 days later, she came back. And what she brought with her would shake everything loose. She came back with a smile, and a story that made no sense. It was raining when she came back. Not the cinematic kind, just a cold, flat drizzle that made everything gray and slippery. I was sitting on the couch, still wearing yesterday's clothes, the apartment dim and quiet. I didn't expect her. Not then. Not after that message. I thought she'd ghost for a few more days, maybe text something dramatic or cryptic. But there she was, key in the lock, door creaking open like nothing had happened. She walked in casually, like she hadn't disappeared for 2 nights without saying who she was with. Like she hadn't texted me one vague sentence and left me to chew on it alone. She was wearing the same coat she'd worn to the mixer, wrinkled now, damp at the sleeves. And she was smiling. Smiling. Not wide. Not manic. Just soft. Warm. Dangerous. Hey, she said, like we were picking up after a nap. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and started walking toward the kitchen. You haven't eaten, she observed, noticing the untouched takeout box still on the counter. You never eat when you're upset. I didn't respond. I just stared at her, waiting, like any second now, she'd crack and say what she was really here for. But instead, she opened the fridge, took out an orange, peeled it slowly. The smell filled the space between us. After a long silence, I finally asked, "Where were you?" She didn't look up. "I stayed at Jenna's," she said. "We talked all night. I needed clarity. I couldn't think straight." "Jenna?" I repeated. "The coworker who just had a baby and lives with her mother an hour out of town." She looked up then, just for a second, but it was enough. Caught. Her pause was microscopic, but I've known her long enough to see it. The flicker of panic. The brief rewrite. "Yeah, well, Jenna was out of town, actually, but I had her place to myself. She gave me the key last week when she went to her mom's. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just needed time." I nodded slowly. She wasn't even trying that hard. That's what stunned me. The lie was lazy. Hollow. Like I was too tired or too broken to question it properly. Like she believed my silence meant surrender. She sat on the edge of the table, legs crossed, chewing a piece of orange like we were mid-conversation. "I kept thinking about the way you looked when you left," she said. "It got to me. I didn't expect you to actually walk out." There it was again, that same assumption, that I'd always be waiting, that I didn't have it in me to choose self-respect over routine. "So what now?" I asked. "You needed clarity, you got it. You stayed somewhere secret, avoided my calls, then strolled back and like a storm didn't pass through this place." She didn't blink. "I didn't cheat on you, Clarence," she said. And this time, she actually sounded defensive. "You can think what you want, but I didn't. Not physically." Physically. That word hung there like a trap. I almost laughed, but it came out as a scoff instead. "So emotionally, then?" I said. "Mentally? What's the threshold where I'm allowed to feel betrayed?" She dropped her gaze. "I got caught up," she said. "I liked the attention. I liked feeling like someone was really seeing me." The worst part was how honest that sounded. She wasn't even crying. She was being clinical, rational, like she was filing a report on our failure, and this was just one bullet point. Emotionally distant husband, exciting new connection, brief detachment, returned home, problem solved. But it wasn't solved. It was just beginning. Because then she said, "I think we can still fix this." And for the first time in this entire mess, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not heartbreak, but something darker. Something cold. She thought this was fixable. She thought we could talk our way out of this. She had no idea what her absence had unlocked in me. She thought I'd break first. She forgot what I do in silence. She stood there, arms crossed loosely, waiting for my reaction like it was a math problem she could solve if she stared at it long enough. Her whole posture screamed performance. Not for sympathy, no, not anymore. For power. She wasn't apologizing. She was trying to steer the ending. Trying to keep the story from veering into chaos. But the thing about chaos? It doesn't need your permission. I didn't answer her right away. I just sat there, leaning back in the chair, staring at her like I was watching someone else's life unravel on TV. There was this new calm in me, a disturbing one. The kind you feel right before a bottle drops from the counter but doesn't break. Just spins. You want to fix this? I finally said. My voice didn't shake. Then tell me who he is. Her eyes locked on mine for a fraction too long. That's how you know someone's choosing their next move instead of telling the truth. There's no he, she said, too quickly, too smoothly. I told you. It wasn't about anyone. It was about me. I tilted my head. Right. You disappeared for 2 days about you. Ignored my calls. Came back with a lie about Jenna's place. And now you're eating fruit like we're in a therapy session that never happened. She set the orange slice down. Her jaw tightened. Why are you doing this? Because I stopped believing you the moment you smiled at him like I wasn't there. You don't smile like that at strangers. You don't dance like that unless your body already knows the rhythm. She swallowed hard. That hit. I could tell. She didn't deny it this time. She just shifted tactics. I made a mistake, she said, finally sounding human. I felt invisible, Clarence. You've been gone for months. Not physically, but emotionally. You used to ask about my day. You used to reach for my hand. You used to want me. I didn't know how much I missed being wanted until someone reminded me. There it was. The confession, but wrapped in ribbon. Packaged like pain. Handed to me like I was supposed to thank her for being honest. You should have told me, I said, voice flat. You should have fought for it. Or walked out like an adult. Not, whatever the hell this is. You humiliated me in public, and you think we're going to sit here and do a couples workshop? She looked like she might cry again. But I didn't flinch. I'd flinched too many times for both of us already. You want to fix this? I asked. Then open your phone. What? Right now? Open your phone. Messages. Show me his name. His texts. The truth. Not your edited version of it. I want to see it the way you lived it. She stared at me like I'd asked her to undress in public. Then she stood up slowly, voice trembling now, but not from fear. From fury. I don't owe you surveillance, she snapped. You don't get to interrogate me like I'm some criminal. I came back, didn't I? I could have stayed gone. I chose us. No, I said, rising to my feet too. You chose you. You always did. I just happened to be standing in the same room when you got bored of pretending. And for a moment, neither of us moved. Not a blink. Not a breath. The entire apartment went still, like the walls were listening. Then she did something that startled even me. She laughed. A short, dry, joyless laugh that didn't touch her eyes. You think you're strong now, she said. You think walking out for one night gives you power? Clarence, I know you. You'll fold. You'll forgive. You always do. I smiled. And this time, I meant it. Not this time. Her face dropped. That was the moment she finally understood something had changed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was done. And she'd spent so long counting on my weakness. She never noticed it evolving into resolve. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to win. She didn't say anything right away. That was her tell, the silence. The way her lips pressed together like she was taste testing which version of the truth she could feed me next. But I was past hungry, past polite. She used to use her silence to avoid conflict. Now, she was using it to calculate it. I stood there, waiting, while she paced across the living room in slow, measured lines. Like the right combination of words could still bring the furniture back into place. Like she could edit this moment into something salvageable. Then she turned sharply. Do you even remember who you were when we met? Her voice was too calm, too sharp. You were a mess. You didn't even have a real job. You were living in that awful apartment with the broken heater and the roommate who played drums at 3 a.m. You didn't know who you were. You had no direction. I helped you build a life. And there it was. The pivot. I'd seen it coming. Didn't make it sting any less. She wasn't here to heal. She was here to reframe. Reframe me as the dependent. The project. The emotional stray dog she took in and trained to sit. This wasn't love anymore. It was damage control. I was never a project, I said, my voice low. You didn't build me. You just liked me better when I was beneath you. She flinched, not because it was loud. It wasn't, but because it landed where it hurt. She looked like she wanted to scream, but didn't want to give me the satisfaction. You don't get to rewrite our history just because you feel guilty now, I added. You're not the hero in this story. You're just the one who got caught playing both sides. She walked to the kitchen and started opening drawers, one by one. Not looking for anything, just moving. It was a nervous habit. She always did it when she wanted to look busy while plotting her next move. Finally, she spun around, hands still gripping the edge of the drawer. You want the truth? She said. Fine. I was with him. The guy from the party. Not all night, but long enough. But nothing happened, Clarence. We talked. We drank. We flirted. That was it. I nodded slowly. And you think that's better? I think it's honest. I laughed, actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because she really believed that. Like bearing half the truth made it cleaner. She still didn't get it. It wasn't the physical closeness. It wasn't the stupid slow dance. It wasn't the drink or the night or the absence. It was the choice. She chose someone else. In the moment. In the mood. In the mirror. She saw herself reflected in his attention and decided she liked the way it looked better than what we had. That was the betrayal. Not a kiss. Not a hotel room. The abandonment of us for a flicker of me. She came closer. I didn't cross the line, she whispered, like proximity could soften my judgment. But I almost did. And that should scare you too. That's when I looked at her, really looked, and saw what I hadn't seen before. She wasn't apologizing because she regretted the almost. She was apologizing because the line moved, and she got caught standing on the wrong side of it too long. I don't think you're sorry, I said. I think you're scared I finally became the man who can walk away from you. She stepped back, and in that single step, I saw it. The realization that she couldn't predict my next move anymore. That her grip was slipping. That this wasn't just a fight. It was the end of her version of the story. She didn't speak again that night. We didn't argue. We didn't cry. We didn't scream. We just sat in opposite corners of the same apartment, in a silence so thick it felt physical. And the worst part? I didn't miss her. Not even a little. I didn't burn the bridge. I just walked away from it. She left the next morning. Quietly. No speech. No slammed door. She packed 2 bags while I showered, like we were roommates trading shifts in the same life. When I came out, she was standing by the door, keys in hand, looking at me like she wanted me to say something, stop her, ask her to stay, give her a reason not to go. I didn't, because I had nothing left to prove. Not to her, not to myself. I didn't need her pain, or her pity, or her half-truths wrapped in desperate apologies. I just needed air, and space, and silence that didn't feel like punishment. She lingered in the doorway. You're really not going to say anything? I met her gaze. You already said enough for both of us. She nodded slowly, eyes glistening, but still no tears. She never cried the way I thought she would. Maybe that was the most honest thing about her. When the door closed behind her, I stood in the center of the apartment, just listening. No music, no footsteps, just the hum of the fridge and the dull throb of my own heartbeat trying to catch up with what had just happened. I thought I'd feel shattered, or free, or angry, but I didn't feel any of those things. I just felt still, like the chaos had been dragged out with her suitcases and what was left was mine again, even if it was cracked, even if it was lonely. The days that followed were quiet, and in that quiet, I started remembering parts of myself I hadn't heard from in years. I sat on the balcony with coffee that didn't go cold from arguing. I rearranged furniture not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I read old notebooks. I found a playlist she once rolled her eyes at and played it loud. I opened the windows. And then one day, I got a message. Not from her. From Jenna. Just 2 lines. She's not who she used to be. I'm sorry. You deserve better. And somehow, that hit harder than any fight we ever had. Not because I needed confirmation, but because I finally realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't imagining it. The version of her I missed didn't exist anymore. Maybe never did. Months passed. I didn't date. I didn't chase distractions. I just rebuilt, slowly, from the inside out. Learned how to be alone without feeling abandoned. Learned how to speak without swallowing my voice. Learned that strength doesn't always look like a fight. Sometimes it's just choosing not to answer the phone when the past calls in the middle of the night. She texted once, around Christmas. Just 1 line. Do you think we could ever start over? I stared at it for a long time. Then I smiled, not out of bitterness, but peace. And I deleted it. Because I didn't need to start over. I'd already started something better. Me.